Jean-Claude Van Damme has popped up on this series 5 times so far. I love this guy and his phenomenal martial arts skills, but his films, which I loved as a child, have a whole different kind of value in retrospect. So today I decided to go back to where it all began.
Ho 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 ho! Delightfully devilish, Seymour.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to Delightfully Devilish, the show where we discuss films that all at once meet the criteria of being the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm your host, Jukebox Harry, and today we are looking at one of the cheesiest and messiest martial arts films to come out of the 1980s. No Retreat, No Surrender is a 1986 martial arts film featuring Jean-Claude Van Damme, but despite the fact that he's promoted so heavily in all the promotional material, his role in this film is little more than a glorified cameo. This is a pre-Bloodsport film, and the biggest thing about this film is simply the fact that it's a blatant ripoff of The Karate Kid, which came out 2 years prior. The Shanghai-based producer of this movie actually saw The Karate Kid and felt like he could make that movie but with better fight scenes, and in one sense he was kinda right, but as far as making a better film goes, well, you know how this goes. No Retreat, No Surrender kicks off with a pretty immediate low-budget feeling because the sound is about as rough as the visuals, and among the cast is a man with the surname Fails, a champion kickboxer named Sugarfoot, and Van Damme playing a character literally called Ivan the Russian. Can you think of any other movies, maybe sports movies from the 1980s that featured a Russian character named Ivan? Yeah, I think this film's gonna rip off more than just The Karate Kid. The film even calls itself an original story. Nobody who has seen this film would call it that. We meet protagonist Jason Stillwell, a skilled martial artist.
What do you think over our proposal, Mr. Stillwell?
I must decline your offer.
Also, in this dojo, the American flag is up backwards. I'm not sure if the set decorator made a very simple mistake or if all the footage was mirrored, but this isn't very patriotic. The conversation is cut short fairly quickly because we cut to a fight scene in a matter of moments.
Karate is not to be used aggressively. But if I have no other choice...
Whoa, we got a badass over here. To the film's credit, the action kicks in pretty quickly, and the choreography is effectively solid. And in the traditional style of Hong Kong martial arts movies, the camera lingers for a long time while the same few stock sound effects are used again and again. It's cheap and silly, but it's also undeniably fun, even with the moments of sped up frames. And Jean-Claude Van Damme joins the fight with a pretty solid entry. Ivan the Russian proves a pretty solid adversary, knocking Sensei down in a matter of seconds. Jason strikes back, but proves to be no match for Ivan the Russian, and Sensei doesn't believe that fighting is the answer.
They want all the major dojos as fronts for organized crime. I know they'll be back. What should I do?
Holy exposition, Batman! Sensei shuts down his dojo and moves away, because apparently there was just no other options whatsoever. Oh yeah, Jason is his son, by the way. The whole family moves to Seattle.
Stop it! You're killing me! Seattle!
The film reminds us twice that we're in Seattle. Apparently we weren't smart enough to figure that out the first time. Rather than helping his mother and disabled father move their items into the house, Jason takes one box to the garage to set up some martial arts equipment so that he can kick the shelves off the wall. When he goes back to the car, he accidentally knocks his basketball over to the black kid from every single 80s movie ever.
My name's RJ. How you doing?
Hi, Jason.
What's RJ stand for? Rayford Jefferson Madison III.
What it is, soul brother?
You moving in?
No, we just came for the weekend. We travel light.
That's good. I was afraid the property values were going down. Whew, I'll tell my dad not to worry.
Apparently, actor J.W. Fails lied to the producers and said that he could dance and skateboard to get a role in this movie. They cast him on the backbone of his acting charisma. What charisma? The entire time, a highly obese white kid across the street stares them down while eating an entire cake.
Bruce Lee, freak. Just what Kingswood needs. Why me?
My roommate and I decided to call him Pincus. He's our favorite character.
Aw, is that it?
That really wasn't all that impressive.
Well, I dance a bit and I'm really quick. I rock to the beat so viciously. Why you go imitating Bruce Lee? I like to feel my highs, I like to feel my lows.
He said a line about rapping to the beat, but he was not in time with the beat at all. Yeah, I thought this movie was meant to be ripping off The Karate Kid, not Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. Now, realistically, this character exists solely to siphon off the success of the film The Last Dragon, which came out the previous year. It was a martial arts comedy with a large degree of emphasis on African-American culture. I didn't like it. It was a very tonal, jumbled mess.
I've got some friends who've been doing it for about 2 years, and one's even a second-degree black belt.
As someone who has done karate for 14 years, let me tell you, nobody becomes a second-degree black belt in the course of 2 years. It is physically impossible.
Hey, I hear he's buried in Seattle. Do you know where? Yeah, I'll take you there tomorrow. All right.
Yeah, my roommate and I are actually both karate teachers, and neither of us could figure out what benefit he was meant to be getting from punching through those wooden blocks. Pincus is a man who is amused by the little things, like a pressure washer and product placement. RJ starts skating in, and the camera cuts his head out of frame when it's time to actually show off some cool tricks.
I told you couldn't run away forever.
Did you? I don't remember you saying that. RJ bites Pincus on the nose and skates off, causing him to run after RJ, which based on his appearance is probably the first time he's run in a while. The camera cuts again so that RJ can jump, but Pincus is a man who actually does all his own stunts.
Well, come on, big boy, if you think you got the heart.
Jump, Deacon, jump!
Come on, boy! Get up! Get up! Next time we meet, buddy, I'm gonna beat you up so bad your mother won't even recognize you!
RJ and Jason drive off to the grave of Bruce Lee, and the first-person camera shot reveals that the windscreen has a pretty major crack in it. If my best mate Josh was watching this movie with me, this is the point in the film where he'd say, I can get that fixed for you. The joke being that he works in customer service for a windscreen company. In the next shot, however, we see the front of Jason's car, and it obviously does not have a crack in the windshield. So why didn't they just shoot that first-person shot from inside this car instead? It would have added better aesthetic value. Jason pays his respects to Bruce Lee.
Please give me the courage and strength to stand up for what I believe. Thank you, Sensei Lee.
Then we're inside a diner with more Coca-Cola product placement and Pincus once again making every attempt to spill food on his face. And this is actually the full extent of his character development. He sees that black kid again, which makes him mad.
Why do you hate that kid so much?
I've got my reasons.
And those reasons are never explained. In the original script for No Retreat, No Surrender, there was meant to be a scene where RJ accidentally trips up Pincus in the school cafeteria, which causes the conflict between them. But no, that doesn't make it into the final cut of the film, so instead we're just left to believe that Pincus is a flat-out racist. And considering that this actor actually went on to appear in a film called Extreme Prejudice, that seems hilariously relevant. Pincus's gang descends on him, causing Jason to come out and get involved.
Beat it, Brucey. Go on home and play with your wooden dolly.
Dry up, Tubbo.
You stay out of this or you're gonna get hurt. This is between him and me.
Then why are you getting everyone else involved, Pincus?
Get him!
See, there you go.
No retreat, no surrender.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Break it up. You better be quiet.
So that was a fucking lie.
Next time I'm gonna kill you!
Yeah, you said that last time. Jason returns home to an argument with his father, which starts pretty difficult to hear.
I told you not to fight. I didn't do it for fun, I did it for a friend. That's no excuse.
And just how did you find out about this?
Fighting is for punks.
That is the full extent of the character development in Jason's father. He just keeps on saying fighting is wrong without ever elaborating on it. He has a one-sentence arc in this story.
Go to your room.
I'm not a child!
Oh, adults fight in the streets?
Well, yeah, they do actually. Like, more often than kids fighting in the streets, you'll find adults doing it. Jason angrily storms into his room, furiously staring at several pictures of Bruce Lee in rage. And then we're in a sports arena. And just what happened in the first 6 rounds? We get a brief fight between 2 random kickboxers, and Jason is watching it on his TV, which is very obviously a video cropped into a photo of a TV. I don't understand at all why this production decision was made. I've never seen it done in literally any other movie.
You know that guy's place is around here.
Yeah? You know where?
Sure, I go by there all the time.
Sorry, Jason, do you just not have any furniture whatsoever? I mean, I know you just moved, but you gotta have a chair or an esky to sit on or something. Jason goes to the local dojo, and guess who else is there? Take a shot every time Pincus comes in with a dramatic entry. It'll make the movie a lot more fun.
I had a run-in with that guy. Did this, that.
Well, I don't see any bruises on your arm, just what are you pointing at?
He was putting Seattle karate down in a big way and talking about how wonderful Los Angeles karate is. Then he started pushing me around.
Yeah, this doesn't sound the slightest bit suspicious, nor is it suspicious that the guy who was allegedly hating on Seattle karate has now actually come to train with you guys. Discount Johnny Lawrence puts Jason in a fight against Sugarfoot, who quickly reveals how he earned that black belt, and the film constantly cuts back and forth between the fight itself and all these clips of Pincus laughing. Jason gets defeated once, but he gets up again for a second round, only to get knocked down again. During these fights, there are a lot of times when Sugarfoot quite literally does not actually land any techniques, yet the film continues to use the sound effects that pretend like he does. The fights keep going until RJ pulls him out and the two run off. And then we cut to the birthday party of a previously unestablished female named Callie, and Pincus is there with food on his face again. You'll also notice that this film has to include Bruce Lee in pretty much every shot that it can get away with. He appears at least 23 times in this shot alone. Well, nobody else was swimming, and also, how familiar do you have to be with the taste of pool urine to have figured out that that's what it was so quickly? Discount Johnny Lawrence tries making an advance on Callie.
I'm not interested. Go find some other girl to pest.
And it turns out her brother is a local karate legend.
How's my little sister? You know, I think I missed you most of all.
You'll notice in this scene the actor constantly has at least one of his hands on his sister's waist. That just isn't right at all.
Jason! I'm so glad you came.
I hope you like it.
Oh, he's so cute. How did you know?
You made such a fuss over it at the pet store the other day, I just had to get it.
Well, we never saw her making this fuss, and we didn't know she existed until a few seconds ago, and also, why would you wrap an animal like that? That's probably going to risk suffocating it. There it is, take a shot. Callie's brother runs down to his dojo to encounter the dickheads from the start of the film, who coincidentally seem to follow Jason to every town that he moves to. They try sucking this guy into part of their deal, but he rejects it.
Who gave it to you? Jason did. He's a friend of mine from Los Angeles. We met last summer.
Okay, so I guess they did think this part through.
Hi, Cal. How's my girl?
What do you think you're doing?
Well, look at what the cat drug in.
Cat drug in? Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard the word drug be used in the incorrect context before. That's another thing that this movie pioneered. Pinkers and Lawrence start antagonizing Jason, and this escalates into a fight.
Stop it, Dean! Don't hurt him!
You're that punk!
Jesus, Derek Chauvin much? Jason runs off humiliated.
I didn't know anything!
Oh, give it a rest, Kelly!
Wow, so you just stopped being the hero of this story. Jason drives off and the film begins to show us flashbacks to clips that we literally just saw seconds ago. The entire angry driving flashback scene is very clearly plagiarized from Rocky IV. You know, the other sports film that featured a villainous Russian named Ivan.
They're out to get me. I don't know why. I can't handle it.
If you're yelling at a tombstone, then you very obviously can't handle it. Maybe try consulting someone who's actually living.
Sensei Lee, you have to help me.
Stop shouting at a tombstone, dickhead!
Where you been?
Nowhere.
I asked where you were.
And I told you, didn't I?
You very clearly didn't. I couldn't actually find the birth date of Jason's father, but they don't look particularly far apart in terms of age. Anyway, his father goes and trashes Jason's garage.
Don't do that!
Why are you running? Why are you running?
RJ! What the?
The man pops up outside in a shower cap. Is Jason meant to have pulled him out of the shower? Is that what's supposed to have happened?
I know of an empty house near here. We can take the stuff there if you'd like.
Their plan is to smuggle their items into someone else's property. You know, if the police catch an African American doing that, they're probably going to shoot him on sight. Once they finish setting up a dojo in a stranger's house, they sit down so they can enjoy some nice, refreshing product placement.
If I don't get home soon, my old man's not only gonna be pissed, he'll call the cops. I know what you mean.
The sad thing is that RJ probably knows exactly what that means. He's probably had the cops called on him countless times by frightened whiteys.
No retreat, no surrender.
Yeah, there it is! There it is!
Who's there? RJ, is that you?
You know. You asked me to come.
Wait for it.
Sensei Lee?
Yes, everyone, the ghost of Bruce Lee enters the story.
Shall we begin?
Begin? Begin what?
Your training. You asked me to help.
If you look really closely, you can see that it's not actually the ghost of Bruce Lee. In actuality, this is Kim Tai-chung, the actor and martial artist who was actually used as a stand-in to help finish filming the movie The Game of Death once Bruce Lee actually passed away during production. It's very obvious that all of Kim's dialogue has been dubbed, but both actors also had to read from cue cards because they have no idea what they were actually saying to each other.
This cup, as you, represents your knowledge. This cup is what I offer. The cup of my knowledge is more than your cup holds.
No need to go.
Then, the cup now is clean, you understand?
They actually dug up Bruce Lee from the grave to make him promote Coca-Cola products. That is a special kind of fuck you to a martial arts legend. Western audiences may find the idea of the ghost of Bruce Lee appearing in the film to be ridiculous, which is fair enough, but remember, everything about this film screams that it is a Chinese production. And one notorious subgenre of kung fu movies is Bruceploitation films, where the entire gimmick relies on casting Bruce Lee lookalikes. Sometimes the story is about Bruce Lee's DNA being cloned several times, such as in The Clones of Bruce Lee, or sometimes it's about Bruce Lee in hell fighting Dracula Dracula and James Bond and Clint Eastwood, like in The Dragon Lives Again. And one of my favorite examples of this is the 1976 film Bruce Lee Fights Back from the Grave. This was a South Korean film originally called Visitor of America, but when it was being dubbed for English-speaking audiences, they actually added an extra scene at the start of the film where Bruce Lee's tombstone got struck by lightning and Bruce Lee actually jumped out of the grave. The rest of the film literally had nothing to do with it. The lead actor in the film, Jun Chong, even had his credit changed to Bruce K.L. Leah for some reason. That is some of the most desperate pandering I've ever heard. So now, after plagiarizing countless popular American sports films, No Retreat, No Surrender then adds a Bruceploitation subplot. But even though he's a ghost, Bruce Lee is perfectly capable of interacting with humans, apparently.
What was a mistake?
Probably choosing to star in this film over becoming a police officer. Yeah, that's actually a true story. Kurt McKinney found out that he got the role in this film the same day that he found out his application for the LAPD was accepted. He chose to make this film instead. In retrospect, do you think that was a good idea? I mean, this film did actually show that he was working with an African American instead of pursuing a career where he ended up killing them for a living, so I guess so. The film then begins its first training montage, as per its generic contract. And it's seemingly shot in a local playground, which has been slightly altered. This actually marks a point in the film where it loses a lot of its charm. While No Retreat, No Surrender began as a scattered clusterfuck of genre mashups and plagiarized plot points, once the film settled on being a conventional 80s sports movie with a Bruceploitation subplot, it narrows its focus. In doing so, it loses a lot of its campiness and instead becomes a little too serious. Obviously, the film didn't mean to be an unintentional comedy, but when it stops being one, the charm suffers. Though there are still some decent moments, like this one bit of inexplicable homoeroticism between RJ and Jason. And RJ can't actually see Bruce Lee, but of course the mythology behind that is never explained.
Nigga stole my bike. Nigga stole my bike. Nigga stole my bike.
Amid the training is Jason Stillwell trying to master a jump kick when he has one leg trapped and needs to rely solely on the other one, which of course is the film's version of the crane kick from the end of The Karate Kid. While this is going on, we see that Jason's father has taken on a much more rewarding career as a bartender where he deals with customers like this jagoff who looks like he could be Pincus's father.
What's this I hear used to teach karate? Look, I don't want any trouble. Then answer my question.
He tries to be a humble pacifist the entire time, but this drunken goon is written to be just a generic asshole. He tries to start a fight with Father Stillwell, which forces him to use self-defense and throw the man out of the bar. And Jason finally manages to land the jump kick, causing Bruce Lee to completely disappear again. Then we get the third or fourth training montage of the film, which begins with Jason doing push-ups on his thumb and index finger, although if you look closely, you can actually see wires attached to his back that are doing it for him. Next, he's doing experimental sit-ups, but he's doing them entirely incorrectly. Rather than using his core, which is the entire point of the exercise, he relies on the momentum of swinging himself. And he keeps curling his back, which is bad for his posture. I run warm-ups with my students all the time, and one of the biggest things I have to do is constantly remind them how to do proper sit-ups. And the homoeroticism lingers, actually becoming even more gay than it was before. But to its credit, this entire training montage is a pretty enjoyable scene. It's full of shamelessly 80s spirit, and the song being used is pretty awesome. Hold On to the Vision is a song I listen to a lot when I'm training or running, and it's also the name of a short film I made in the 11th grade, which was a fairly shameless copy of the formula that this film used. I can't watch that film without cringing, but it is a part of my history, so I'll put a link to it in the description. Please, mock it all you want. Jason Stillwell's fight skills are on full display during this training montage, and he even breaks one of the punching bags, which actually wasn't even intentional. Later, the bargoon comes back to start beef with Father Stillwell again.
Karate man, we're gonna teach you some manners.
Okay.
One of the goons even has a Coca-Cola shirt. I thought Leonard Part 6 was the most ridiculous example of Coca-Cola product placement in film, but this movie definitely gives it a run for its money. For a former karate teacher, he barely puts up much of a fight, but luckily Jason rocks up, being sure to do a somersault on the hood of his car first, and after doing 2 obligatory jumps over a chain fence, Jason jumps in and saves the day. Once again, Kurt McKinney shows off his fighting skills, which are pretty solid. To his credit, Kurt McKinney has the appropriate amount of skill to stand as the lead in this film. His career didn't go anywhere major after No Retreat, No Surrender, but this film gave him a fairly well-deserved shot at glory. And by saving his father from getting beaten up, that proves to be the one thing that mends their relationship.
I'm very proud of you, son.
The story turns back into break-in again as we're inexplicably out at a club with dancers dressed as Michael Jackson showing off their moves, just because. But this also serves to remind us that Kelly was a character once upon a time. Predictably, they kiss and make up, and their relationship never develops past this scene. Then we cut to an airport exterior, which is a shot you can tell they had no actual clearance to film at that airport. And then we see the bad guys exiting and then driving the wrong way down a road, which is very obviously a one-way street. They've come to town to challenge the Seattle Dojo to a tournament, and after saying that they have 3 challenges, they pull a bait and switch and reveal that Ivan the Russian will be their only fighter. I don't know why they do this, it's not thematically powerful. Ivan gets led into the ring by a gang of unenthusiastic chanting minorities. The first fight is with Jason's bully, and he proves to be a pretty formidable opponent with a lot of strong technique, but Van Damme dodges every move with impressive speed, and one kick from Ivan knocks him back. He comes back, but in a matter of seconds, Ivan sends him flying out of the ring.
Fight's over! That's it! You're out!
Yeah, that fight probably should have been between Jason and the bully instead of Ivan. This film completely lost focus. Keith W. Strandberg actually claims that he was up every night rewriting the script to make sure that it was ready for the next day's shoot. He must not have been doing a very good job of it, because he completely lost track of his story. Between the fights, Van Damme shows off his infamous splits, which is apparently how he got the role in this film in the first place. Accordingly, Van Damme was brought into the audition and barely spoke a word of English, so when the producer said to him, "What can you actually do?" he actually pulled up 2 chairs and did his iconic splits. The next fight is with Sugarfoot, and even though we saw him do a pretty good job earlier, he doesn't even get much time to shine before Ivan smashes him. Even after he gets up, we don't see any of his impressive moves because he exists solely to get punched around, finishing with a knockout from one of Van Damme's most iconic moves. Kelly's brother is the third fighter who shows off some pretty impressive kicks, and he manages to stand his ground better than the other fighters, but predictably, Ivan is relentless. He still manages to get kicked in the face, which results in him having a Stallone lip, but in response, he strikes back with such fury that he begins choking his foe with part of the ring, as well as kicking the referee out of there. But in comes Pincus to save the day.
Poor Pincus. Poor little Pincus.
Ivan continues to abuse his foe until Kelly comes in and tries to help, but when Ivan pulls her hair, that's where he crosses the line. So in comes Jason to save the day, and instantly Ivan completely forgets how to block.
So, it is you, son. Is it not?
The movie's almost over, and that is literally his first line in the entire script. So he can actually speak, just not very well.
But this time it'll be different. Russian.
Ivan the Russian takes being called a Russian as some kind of an insult. Kurt McKinney's abilities really start to shine in the final fight as he ducks and dodges from Ivan's technique and lands a hit or two in there. This makes Ivan so furious that he takes off his glove and tears his top off before circling a stationary Jason. During this fight scene, we keep getting flashbacks to Jason's training in a desperate attempt to tie in the specific methods that he was learning to the final fight. But Ivan is able to get the upper hand and pin him between the ropes until RJ comes in to say the obligatory line.
No retreat! No surrender!
He said it! He said it!
Jason fights back and the flashbacks continue. We see him remembering everything he's learned and even landing the backflip kick. But the final technique he lands is just another kick which sends Ivan out of the ring. Everyone rushes in to congratulate Jason as Hold On to the Vision plays over the end credits, and that's where we finish. Is No Retreat, No Surrender a good film?
Yeah!
No Retreat, No Surrender is both a good film and a good bad film. Its objectively good qualities stem from the fight scenes, which feature a large array of talented martial artists kicking plenty of ass. And given that director Corey Yuen is a martial artist with a long history of working on films as the action choreographer on films like X-Men, the first 2 Transporter films, and 7 Jet Li movies, his talents definitely shine as a choreographer on this movie. And when it comes to the good-bad aspects of No Retreat, No Surrender, it mostly comes down to the sheer messiness of its plot. This movie borrows shamelessly from The Karate Kid, Rocky IV, The Last Dragon, and for some reason Bruce Lee fights back from the grave. It plagiarizes from so many movies that its story becomes a huge mess, and as a result, it can't actually decide who its main villain really is. And because of that, the protagonist never really completes his arc. He never confronts his own bullies, and his father doesn't even get his dojo back. Strandberg wrote several plagiarized narratives into a story and didn't know how to close them, so he rushed them to an entertaining but still rushed and anticlimactic conclusion. Nonetheless, most of the bad aspects of No Retreat, No Surrender are what makes it an enjoyable film. So many films have tried to copy the formula from The Karate Kid. If you want an American example, look at Sidekicks. That movie is trash. This one at least knows how to deliver the goods that audiences are looking for. The story is there solely out of obligation, but the film spends little time pretending like it has any substance, instead filling the narrative with plot elements that either feel like they're straight out of a teenage soap opera or some kind of surreal kung fu fantasy. And the sheer ridiculousness of all of them is hilarious more often than not, as are the very lackluster standards for acting and production values. There are so many characters, none of whom are all that interesting, minus Pincus of course, because he succeeds as the campy over-the-top comic relief. And like I said, the action is perfectly solid. The film makes very little attempt to pretend like it's not formulaic or derivative, but when it comes to the action, that's where the film delivers, and that's exactly what the audiences are here to see. Admittedly, this film has found second life as a good bad 1980s movie, so it does have entertainment values in areas that it didn't intend to as well. No Retreat, No Surrender gets 6 Pincuses out of 10. It's poorly written, derivative, and downright ridiculous, but it's also hilarious, campy, and delivers a lot of pretty solid action. So that does it for today's episode of Delightfully Devilish. You guys, if there are any movies you want to see me discuss on this show, please leave them in the comment section below. If you want to see more episodes of this show, please hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, until next time, I've been your host, Jukebox Harry. No Retreat, No Surrender.